right, good afternoon. Come on, y'all know that's not a coalition greeting. Good afternoon. All right, welcome to our monthly community coalition meeting. Got another great meeting here for you today. I'm Tracy Parsons. I'm the facilitator of these meetings and our community coalition group. So this is the meeting where we get a chance monthly to kind of come in and reconnect with each other. I hope if you're here for the first time, you've had a chance to meet somebody new. If you're here each month, you can make sure you meet somebody new who's here for the first time, because that's a big part of it, right? So you don't want to just come and hear the information and not leave out with a value-added opportunity. I'll say it that way today. So let's give everybody a round of applause. Thank you. That's always the test to see how the mic. So I was trying to figure out how it went over here with Mr. Harris, and then ended up over here with Minnie, and then we came back around. All right, I love it. So welcome to the Community Coalition meeting. There is a table in the back where you can find flyers, information about events, activities that are taking place and coming up. I've had a number of folks that said thanks for the drinks, but you want the cookies back, so we'll work on that for next month. My law enforcement friends couldn't get any further away from me. In that far corner over there, we got to work on that. So, all right. So Chandra Somerville is leading us off today and going to talk about a few things happening here soon. Chandra?
Good afternoon. I am Chandra Somerville, and my role at the Champaign County Mental Health Board is the Cultural and Linguistic Competence Coordinator. And today I represent the Alliance for Inclusion and Respect. The Alliance is basically a community collaboration of several organizations that looks at ways to address the challenge of stigma, discrimination, and ways we can be more inclusive in our community. One of our major things about addressing and raising awareness about stigma is ensuring that we have people that have all types of lived experiences, being able to not just be in the background, but actually be featured and also a part of our community. They are members of our community, they have a voice, and most of all, they have skills and talents. And each year we have a few different events, and I'm gonna talk about the one that is connected to Ebert Fest, but we support local artists that are living with disabilities to be able to sell their artwork in different platforms. The Alliance for Inclusion and Respect has several organizations, and we are one of the sponsors for the film, My Name is Sarah, and this particular film is the story about a young woman who was a survivor of the Holocaust. And this film will be on Saturday, the 22nd of April at the Virginia Theater. And on that day, we also have an art show where we will feature our different artists as well. As you can see, there are plenty of people that are involved in the Alliance, and you also can become a member as well, too. So when we think about what keeps this activity going, in addition to support from the Champaign County Mental Health Board and Developmental Disabilities Boards, restaurants and local businesses actually post and display the artwork of a lot of our artists, and they're actually able to put prices on them. So if people want to purchase them, they are able to actually purchase the artwork. Also, individuals in the community that want to attend our art show, we really do welcome it. It's out in the front on that Saturday of Ebert Fest, and we invite you to come and support, speak to our artists, but also purchase their goods. We have a whole lot of plethora of things, from books, candles, essential oils, actual artwork, and other types of goods as well. Actually attending the Ebert Film Festival. So because we serve as sponsors, we have a limited amount of tickets that are available to the Alliance members. The Champaign Community Coalition is a member, so if you would like to attend our sponsored film, just send me an email. And like I said, we have a limited amount of tickets. We'll be sitting all in one area. And so if you would like to attend that, I will give you the information on how you can attend that. And then also membership. We have flyers in the back about the different members of the Alliance, and feel free to become a member. It is not a fee. We just ask that when we do have different events, that you would think about contributing as your organization to contribute financially when we need to house different things, or also it can be in-kind donations as well. We definitely would use your logos, your organization's logo, to put on the actual promotional flyers, also our website. So if you would like to reach out, if you want to attend the Ebert Festival, again, we have a limited amount. And so if everybody comes today and sends me an email and says, hey, I want to come to, my name is Sarah, and then I say, I'm sorry, we ran out. It's just because we had a limited amount. If you are interested in becoming a member of the Alliance of Inclusion and Respect, contact Lynn Canfield. And if you are interested in becoming one of our artists, a part of the Alliance of Inclusion and Respect, you may reach out to Stephanie Howard Gallo. Just to let you know, the Ebert Fest Art Show is full, so we do not have space for any more artists for this particular event. But we do have other events, in particular the Disability Resource Expo. And then also we have some opportunities in the community where we are able to promote our artists at that time. Are there any questions? Yes.
You got to get on the mic.
What time is the event on the 22nd?
Sure. The 22nd is from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. That's the art show.
Thanks, Sandra Somerville.
You're welcome.
Let's give her a round of applause. Great work happening in our community around disabilities and awareness and inclusion. All right, so I know over the last few months we've had a number of acknowledgments and recognitions about the Chancellor's Compact for community engagement. And we've been doing work around workforce development, economic development, inclusive education, IT, health, and now we're going to have a community conversation about engagement and in being involved in improving and strengthening university community relations. So Joycelyn Landrum Brown is next to talk to us about that work.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to make sure that, did any of you receive this flyer, an invitation? If not, there's some flyers in the back, I believe. One of the things that we're hoping to do is to provide an opportunity for members of the community and the campus to kind of get together and really talk about some of their concerns and ways that we can build partnerships and relationships. This is going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be small table facilitated conversations. So apparently we have competing events. Our event is also on April 22nd from 10 to 12 at the City View Events and Meeting Center in the terminal. So we'd like you to take a flyer and to register and then to pass the information on to any of your constituents or people that you feel like would have something that they would be important to share to help build the partnerships and relationships between the campus and community groups, organizations. Short and sweet.
Short and sweet, all right. So that's the great thing about our community, right? There's always so much happening and going on. And the most important part is how do we share it, right? And if you really want to be involved and make a difference in our community, there's a number of ways to do that. At this time, we're going to bring up our law enforcement leadership for their monthly Connect with the Community. Got a great team of leaders coming to give them a round of applause as they make their way up to the panel, to the mic. Chief Tyler has this. All right. They're developing it. Who's going first? The sheriff's going to lead us up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I had to miss last month, so it's great to be back this month. Sheriff's office has been busy doing a whole bunch of different things. We've had one shooting incident over the last month that was a kind of a exchange of gunfire between a homeowner and somebody who was trying to break into the house. No injuries, just property damage. What I wanted to focus on, though, are a couple of things we're doing community-based to kind of help build those bridges in the community and things. One of which is Coffee with a Cop, which is at Industrial Donut in Savoy next Friday morning from 7 to 9. And so this is one of a couple of these that we're going to have. And so if you're out, if you haven't been to Industrial Donut, I'll give them a little shout out. It's great. But come by next Friday between 7 and 9 and come meet some of my deputies. Come chat with us about whatever you want to chat with us about. A really informal atmosphere. I know a lot of the other agencies do them throughout the year as well. Another thing we've highlighted, we've tried this year, and it was actually an endeavor of a couple of our school resource officers, was just deputies randomly going and having lunch with some of the school kids in the districts that we serve as sheriff's office. No agenda, nothing like that, just simply showing up, hanging out, and that seems to be really successful. And so I think that we will continue to do that and just kind of help build those bridges with our juvenile, our youth population as well. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we're starting to see farm implements out on the roads in the country. And so please be patient if you're driving out on the country roads. We've already had 2 accidents today. Now, I don't want to say that they were involving farm machinery because I don't know that. But we've already had 2 accidents this morning that involved injury accidents. And so please just take a couple extra seconds at that stop sign. Watch your speed. We all want to make sure we're going safely. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, fellow community members. So I have some great news, right? So we had the city of Champaign 1 incident of a gunfire for the entire month of March. It haven't been since, So everything we're doing is working, right? This multi-layer approach is working. So it haven't been since February 2018 where the city of Champaign Police Department could report we've only had 1 incident of a shooting, and it was actually someone shooting in the air. That's it. So, So we continue. So since last year this time, it's been a 50% reduction of violent crimes in the first quarter. And since 2021, which was a bad year for us, we have seen over a 60% reduction in violent crime. So again, you should be congratulating yourself. Well, that's just not it, right? So we're using that multi-layer approach. The first quarter, we've did 61 hours of community engagement at 19 community events. We continue to increase proactive activity in the communities. I can tell you that our fellow community members, when I get a phone call, it's regarding speeding and people driving. One of my officers clocked a person on a 35 miles per hour zone today, going 76 miles per hour. So that's criminal. So you're going to see us out there because people are violating the traffic laws, and it's pretty dangerous. We got the summer coming up. Last night, the city council approved another AGP, the security contract. They're bringing in more personnel, so that's going to be good to go. We're still, working to hire more folks, so we know that's the end state for all the community members. So lastly, I don't know if you heard, but we had the badge hockey game, and of course, the police department beat the fire department. So that's how it goes. So thank you, and thank you all. So this is good news. It's not just the Champaign Police Department, it's every community member in here that's helping. Thank you so much.
Just taking a nap. Hi, everyone. From the University of Illinois, we're wrapping up the school year, which is a good sign. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So we are preparing for commencement, and we have the marathon that's upcoming as well. We did have one incident that was really concerning. It's called a swatting incident. So someone had called in an active shooter on the South Quad. So it was really called into Metcat as a real event. They could hear gunshots in the back, but it actually was computer generated. But our officers were there within 60 seconds. So they take those calls for service very seriously. It wasn't isolated to this campus. It happened across the country in different campuses. So that's very scary to think that someone is calling in those incidents, especially in the day and age that we're living today and the severity of gun violence that's happening across this country. So those are a few things that we're working on to close out this safe school year. We're going to roll out another alcohol detail, so there may be some undercover people out there. So just be aware of that. And also, we are adding a new bomb dog. We had retired a bomb dog, so we got a new one. So him and the trainer, her, I'm not sure what it is yet, we'll be going into training for 6 weeks. So it's going to be ready for our fall semester, for our big sporting events. So that's about a wrap for the University of Illinois.
Troy Daniels from Parkland College. We also are getting ready for commencement. This next week, the top commanders of the department will be taking place in an active shooter incident management course at the Illinois Fire Service Institute. Obviously with a lot of the events that have happened around the country, that's been something top of mind. I can tell you, I've said this before, but the local agencies work very closely together to support each other and train constantly in case there's an event. That's an 8-hour course. Then the next day, there's a school safety and violent event incident management course where we bring in administrators that also help, especially with reunification and the complexities that come from these type of events. Last week, a couple weeks ago actually, at the I Hotel, the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System had training for top commanders, chiefs, and sheriffs around the state of Illinois. Many of us were able to attend that, and we were able to get a 2-hour briefing from the chief of the Highland Park Police Department, the July 4th event that they had, and they gave a very detailed 2-hour presentation on what they did right, what they did wrong. We learned a lot of really good information in that presentation, and we actually learned some things that we could possibly do to implement. We've already started preliminary conversations of those to improve our coordination with each other. If my two people from Parkland could stand up from SWIFT, the support for workplace training, the applications I believe have opened up for next fall, correct, Summer? Okay, you guys can have a seat now. These guys here, I'm telling you, if you know anyone that wants to make money while they're going to school, there's so many opportunities to get great jobs in Champaign County. Please send them to Parkland. And also our enrollment for the fall semester is opened up also. But our SWIFT people are great, especially for people who need money and are trying to get to school and make a better life for themselves. Thank you.
Do I have a hodgepodge for you today? So, with respect to the Chiefs report, I'm going to make this relatively brief because I've got a thing after that. We've had 4 shootings since our last coalition meeting. One was on March the 15th, about 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was unfortunately a fatal shooting of a 16-year-old. We've made an arrest on that. We arrested a 14-year-old for that homicide. We had another shooting on March the 20th, about 6 p.m. in the southeast portion of Urbana. Several reports of shots fired, recovered some shell casings, no injuries, no damage on that call. We had kind of a strange home invasion on March the 10th, about 2:30 in the morning in the 700 block of Colorado, where a man forced his way into an apartment and shot another man multiple times. Fortunately, it was non-life-threatening injuries. We've made an arrest on that as well. And then our most recent shooting was April the 2nd, about 12 noon in the 1900 block of Philo Road. An offender shot another victim after a fist fight. So that was pretty disturbing. There were 10 shell casings recovered in that incident, and when we made an arrest in that case. We did have one other critical incident in the city. It was a stabbing death on March the 30th, about 11 o'clock in the morning. That case is still under review by detectives. We anticipate presenting more information to the state's attorney's office about that case so they can make a final determination as to where they want to go with that. So that's sort of the violent crime reports. We're at a total for 10 shootings of the year. So that number is good. The last month hasn't been great, but overall we're in better shape than we were before. I think I'm going to be done with the chief's update, and so I'm going to let my fair fellow chiefs, they're full chiefs, I'm just a half chief, to go sit back down.
All right, so let me set this up, okay? All right, so yeah, let's give our leadership another round of applause. You know, we've worked really hard to make these updates connect, meaningful, not just coming up with the doom and gloom of the shooting, right? So the positive is our community is moving in the right direction. And I think Chief sharing that we had one shooting incident in the month of March, he said 2018. 2018 sounds like it was too hot for me to think we only had one shooting incident, Chief, but that's just phenomenal. I want to, again, give our community a round of applause for that very, very important information. So we're going to shift Chief Searles right now. So a couple of meetings ago, we shared a little bit about the fentanyl crisis that's not only here in our community, but obviously happening all across the country. And we are at the early stages of really thinking about how and what we should be doing to continue the education process around fentanyl and its impact and how it plays. I did not realize how ignorant I was about this subject and topic and issue, and I'm willing to bet most of us are. So what we're doing is just, again, an introduction, a sharing of this important information, and we know this isn't the only drug crisis issue that's taking place in our country and in our community and across the country, but the more we know and are informed, I think the better equipped we are to address and handle. And our shooting incidents is a perfect example of that, of what we can do. I don't care what people say across the country that you can't stop the drug epidemic, and I believe in Champaign County we can. So I want to do all of that and then turn it back over to Chief Searles.
Thank you, Tracy. So I think it was 2 meetings ago that we talked about this. Is that right? So we recently had a meeting among some executives, and Chief Tyler brought a bunch of information, and I gathered some information about fentanyl to really sort of talk about the issues locally as related to fentanyl. So I wanted to present some local stats. When I say local, I mean Champaign County, about opioids, heroin, fentanyl specifically. And so I suppose the first question we need to ask is this a problem? I don't know. What does everybody think? The White House seems to think it is, but is it a problem here? I think it is, because we've had 176 overdose deaths in 2020, 2021, and 2022. 176. 73.9% of those overdose deaths involve heroin and fentanyl. 73.9%. So when you think heroin and when you think fentanyl, you're probably thinking about intravenous drug use, right? You're thinking about someone shooting up in an alley or something like that. But the reality is, it's actually far more complex an issue than that. So, Perhaps driving down Neal Street recently, you've seen a billboard with pictures of pills, and there's a slogan that says, "One pill can kill." That's an initiative through the Drug Enforcement Administration to provide some public education about the dangers of fentanyl. The fact of the matter is, of all the prescription pills seized by the Drug Enforcement Administration in 2022, 60% contained lethal doses of fentanyl. 60%. That's up from 40% in 2021. This is a seizure from one investigation out of Phoenix of 8 million pills. Can anyone tell me what 60% of 8 million is? It's 4.8 million. That's how many people could have died if this load had gotten through. It's a lot. So part of those public education campaigns, there's been billboards trying to humanize this, right? Everyone, when they think about heroin usage and fentanyl usage, again, they think about, intravenous drug users. But the fact of the matter is, it's all sorts of people that are dying from fentanyl and from pills. Kids, white, black, male, female, you name it. There was a story that the head administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration told at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Dallas in October about a young woman who decided to go to a party, and she had never done anything before. She was a kid that had never sort of stepped out of line, and somebody offered her a pill, and she decided that she was going to take that pill, but she wasn't sure exactly what was in it, so she only took half, and she still died. Okay? Kids make mistakes, right? They make bad choices. But 60% of the pills, it's just crazy. I don't know how else to articulate it. So let's look at some of the stats a little bit closer. These are broken down by year and by race. And I've got another graphic that I'll show you in just a minute that I think perhaps shows a little bit better. The orange is 2020, blue is 2021, and green is 2022. So let's look at those numbers a little bit differently. Let's look at them in a pie chart. Red is our white Caucasians, blue are African Americans, green are Hispanic, and I don't have my glasses on. I think that's purple is Asian. So this is by race again. How about sex? This is overwhelmingly male in Champaign County, right? 2-to-1. And here's the trend by age. I was surprised when I saw these numbers. I put these numbers into a spreadsheet. This is not what I was expecting. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this. I was expecting younger people. I wasn't expecting people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the numbers above the bar graphs are the number of people. Well, there's only so much space. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read them very well either. It's all relative, though. So this is a representation of the number of drug overdoses that involve heroin or fentanyl for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022. You can see in 2020, it's 76.8%. 2021, it's 67.2%. In 2022, it's 78.6%. Okay, so how much is fatal, right? We're talking about these pills. How much is fatal? Well, each one of these vials represent a fatal dose for those particular drugs. Heroin, which I'm sure most people have heard of, fentanyl, which we've been talking about, and then there's actually another drug called carfentanil. It's just a derivative of fentanyl. And those are the amounts of a fatal dose for each one of those drugs. Okay, Rich, I don't know how big that vial is. Let's put it in perspective. There you go. That's fentanyl. 2 milligrams is the fatal dose for fentanyl. That's slightly less than the weight of the average snowflake. There you go. That's my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is fentanyl?
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's manufactured by humans. The most common way that it's manufactured is precursor drugs are shipped from China, typically to Mexico, and there's very large labs in Mexico that produce this, and it's imported into the United States. The precursor drugs, and perhaps the U.S. Attorney has better stats on this than I do, but the precursor drugs are imported to Mexico by the metric ton. What other questions might there be out there? I see a hand. Is that Julia? Hi, Julia.
We got a mic here. You get your question, and we'll get the mic. Go ahead.
Two questions, actually. So first is over
there
here.
you go. Sorry.
Of the non-heroin and fentanyl drugs, are those primarily prescription medications that people are illicitly abusing? Or?
So I don't have all the time. So this data came from the coroner's office, and what I got was a summary of the toxicology reports. And I literally went through, and a lot of the toxicology reports had multiple substances: methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, you name it. There was, I would say, probably at least 2/3 were as a result of what's referred to as polysubstance abuse or toxicity. So I don't think that you can necessarily categorize it in one other pile. What I thought was most interesting and noteworthy was that there was just this common thread amongst all these overdoses in all these records that I reviewed.
Thank you. That answers it.
Julia, now that you have a microphone.
Well, I don't really have a question for you,
Okay,
but I do have some information to add.
please.
That I think is good information for everyone to have. First of all, for the past few years, there has been litigation ongoing between government entities and the big pharma manufacturers of opioids. And that has resulted in many settlements recently with those big pharmaceutical companies. Champaign County has been a part of that litigation, and basically we have joined with other counties and cities in that litigation, and has resulted in settlements, and various counties are receiving funds based on their size and the issues that opioids present in our communities. And the county board is currently determining how to distribute those opioid settlement funds. There is restrictions on how we can distribute them. It has to be focused on addressing opioid dependency issues and other sorts of issues. And so the county board is currently having those discussions about how to utilize those funds that we are receiving in that settlement. So that's thing number one that people should be aware of and keeping track of when you're interested in local government. Thing number two is that over in Springfield, there is legislation currently pending to reduce the penalty for possession of small amounts of controlled substances, including heroin and fentanyl, from a Class 4 felony to a Class A misdemeanor. Thank you for that response. There is a lot to that legislation, and I am involved in discussions with those who are proposing that legislation and those who are opposing that legislation. We're talking about treatment options, we're talking about diversion programs, we're talking about expungement for people who are convicted of Class 4 felonies and how they can move forward in a positive direction. And we're also talking about the effects of a felony conviction versus whether or not anyone takes a misdemeanor seriously. But that legislation is and it has been proposed in the past a number of times. But obviously, there is a lot of concern about reducing the penalty for possession of something that is as lethal as heroin and fentanyl, and so you should keep an eye on that sort of legislation that's pending as well.
Chief, thank you for sharing these sad statistics for our local area. So thank you for bringing light to the problem that's been around for many years. My question would be, was there any evidence in your data mining there of previous mental illness or previous substance use disorders that would give us some clues of maybe some precursors leading up to the death?
Great question. The short answer is no. The information that I asked for from the Champaign County coroner was overdose deaths as related to drugs. That was my request. And so, no, there was not a metric in there involving other factors at play. Good question, though. I saw some questions over here.
So, my question is, right, you're talking problem, but I know some communities have really prioritized the broad distribution of Narcan. And there's also been some conflict, right, around the Good Samaritan application of utilizing Narcan and having people do that. So one, what kind of campaign, can spreading Narcan, educating people about the effectiveness of Narcan be a strategy? And then I would also wonder about possible pushback when people do call, right? I mean, there are some fears that people who will also get into trouble if I call to report an overdose. So those are the two questions.
Great questions. I am unaware of any local police department that does not carry Narcan to at least some degree. My officers do. I know the University of Illinois has Narcan available in a number of locations, vending machines and different static posts within campus buildings. I'm certain that both the Champaign Police Department and the Champaign County Sheriff's Office also carry Narcan. It is not unusual for our officers and deputies to administer Narcan. It's not unusual for our officers and deputies to administer multiple doses of Narcan to people that are experiencing overdoses. It is effective. It is effective. With fentanyl in particular, it is typical, if not almost all the time, that we have to administer multiple doses of Narcan in order to reverse the effects of fentanyl. With respect to medical amnesty, it's not a new concept. There's medical amnesty related to overconsumption of alcohol. There's medical amnesty related to the use of narcotics and getting help for people. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure that people don't die unnecessarily, right? So people just need to pick up the phone, get an ambulance there, and we need to get aid rendered. We deal with this all the time. We work through the issues. Of course, before anyone is charged, that charge has to be officially charged, has to be vetted by the Champaign County State's Attorney's Office. They're clearly well versed on issues like medical amnesty. So, yes, great questions.
I may be the only one here with this question, but there are two things I don't understand. One is, are these pills is this fentanyl put into other pills so people don't know what they're getting? And two, where is this coming from? If people in the older or in the middle range are dying, it doesn't seem like this would be something that would be sold on a corner. I don't have any idea. And do people get it then? Are there prescriptions that they get at the drugstore somehow filled with this stuff? Is this put in the drugstore stuff?
It was like 6 questions. I'm going to try to untangle them. So let's talk about drug trafficking organizations. What drug trafficking organizations, and when I say that, I'm talking most primarily about cartels in Mexico. They are pressing pills that look like other things, other legitimate prescription pills, but they contain fentanyl. That is typical. So you might think you're taking a Percocet, it's fentanyl. Well, you can buy it online. You might know somebody. You're not buying these fake pills at Walgreens, okay? With respect to, some of these other questions, there's clearly public health implications here in terms of substance abuse. Are we talking about this started as, I had a bad back and that turned into a pill dependency? There's all sorts of tentacles here. Really what I was trying to focus on here was the illicit sale and consumption of fentanyl. There are instances where fentanyl is prescribed, right? Yeah, it's used in medical procedures, right? But of course, the doses have to be super, super low, right? So
Julia's got her hands up. So again, this is why we wanted to introduce this. I know we're talking about how we have a more intentional, more in-depth conversation, how we bring in our communities or the regions, states, experts on the subject topic. So these are all fantastic questions and why we wanted to do this. So go ahead, Julia.
So if the question that you had was, why would someone take fentanyl? It's highly addictive, and it provides a much higher high effect than heroin. And so a lot of times these situations are stair steps, right? So somebody has, and in that older group, oftentimes it might be that somebody had some kind of a medical situation that resulted with them being prescribed opioids, and then they become addicted to the opioids, but the opioids that they get as a prescription are not enough to satisfy their addiction, so then they move on to heroin, and then they learn that the pills that are sold by Bob on the street corner are stronger than the pills that they were getting from Sam down the road, and so they go to Bob, and Bob's pills have fentanyl in them, and as risky as they are to cause them to overdose, they provide a much more effective and exhilarating high, and that's how they become addicted to those particular pills. So that's why the fentanyl is being put into the pills, because it's a business.
Well, one last bit of information that I promise that I'll leave, because I know you have things to work on, Tracy. Another statistic that I heard from the director of the Drug Enforcement Administration at the same conference was, I had to scratch my head at first because I didn't understand it until I went back and thought about it for just a second. She said, and I don't recall what time period this was, but during a specific time period in New York City, 80% of what they believed to be cocaine overdoses were actually fentanyl overdoses. And so I think what that really illustrates is sometimes people are consuming this and they don't know, which is clearly the point with the pills, right? People think they're taking a Percocet, they're getting a fentanyl. So it's not always an intentional usage thing here as well. So that was the last point I wanted to make.
Just to add, so here's the deal. We have drug traffickers, right? So right now what we know from police intel is that there's more supply than demand. So right now, the cocaine that's coming from other countries is the purest it's ever been. So besides the cocaine that flooded into the United States and fentanyl, there's also a competition with cannabis. So because we got legal cannabis in a lot of the states in Illinois, now there's a large black market going on with cannabis. So besides speeding tickets and gun violence, we're also working on those issues too. So that's all I wanted to add to you.
So let's give Interim Chief Searles a big round of applause. So we're gonna come up here. So thanks, community. Obviously, information sharing and communication is some stuff we need to do around this subject and topic. All right, so let's give a big Champaign County welcome to U.S. Attorney Gregory Harris. Here you go, Gregory. Give you that, sir. So nominated by President Biden and unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate in December of 2021. Greg Harris was sworn in as the U.S. Attorney for the Central District in Illinois. Mr. Harris has been a private attorney. He's been in the office since 2001 in a number of different positions and roles through the U.S. Attorney's Office. And we've been working on getting this brother here for a number of months. And so it's, again, my pleasure to introduce Gregory K. Harris to our community. So another round of applause. So we just want to get to know you. So if you don't mind, just share a little bit about yourself, your role in the U.S. Attorney's Office. How does that connect to us in our community? And some of those things to start us off.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tracy. And it's a privilege to be here this afternoon. I feel like I've been here vicariously for a number of years because of my law enforcement coordinator, Mike Emery, who's in the back there. Mike, raise your hand. He has been coming.
Mike, a round of applause. Yes.
As you probably know, he's been coming for a number of years to these coalition meetings. And when he comes back to our office, he's got a big smile on his face, and he's so happy with the work that he has been doing and that you've been doing. And as it happens to be, the work that you're doing is phenomenal, and it is precisely what the Attorney General of the United States wants us in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice to be doing more and to encouraging more organizations to do. You are on the forefront of fighting crime, violent crime particularly, and specifically gun crime, which is our main priority at this particular point in time. By the time people get to us, to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I'll talk a little bit more about the U.S. Attorney's Office in a moment, but by the time they get to the U.S. Attorney's Office, they've probably gone through the juvenile court system. They've probably seen Julia Reitz in the state's attorney's office. They've probably gone through a number of justice processes and proceedings that have landed them with conditional release, supervised release, probation, jail time, prison time, and they have multiple convictions. We pretty much target individuals that have serious drug and violent crime convictions. So by the time they get to us, they're pretty entrenched in the criminal system. Not to say that we still don't have programs that are designed to help these folks when they come out, because everybody's capable of rehabilitation, and we don't give up on anybody. But in terms of what you are doing, you're meeting those individuals in a lot of cases before they commit the crimes, before they get into the criminal justice system. And when I started in the U.S. Attorney's Office, it was actually in 1980. So I've been in there for about 30 years now. We didn't get involved with preventative activities or actions. We didn't help organizations that much with regard to trying to prevent people from getting involved in crime. Yeah, we gave grants and donations and helped law enforcement with their programs, and they were involved in that kind of activity. But we didn't do that. Today, we're involved in trying to actually work with individuals in the community, outreach activities like what you're engaged in, partnering with you and other organizations, providing federal funding through grants and other programs to assist you to accomplish the goals that you're trying to do. Because we're looking at a long-term strategy. We're not just dealing with the folks that Springfield today had an armed bank robbery. That person is likely to have been probably involved in crime before that happened. If they are convicted of that offense, they're probably looking at something like 15 to 20 years in the Bureau of Prisons. That person, while everybody's capable of rehabilitation, is probably looking at a long term in prison. But what our concern is perhaps preventing folks from getting involved in crime in the first instance, and that's what you're doing. So we're looking at a long-term goal.
Thank you for that. So how do you connect with our local jurisdictions? Is your work cases completely separate, or are they connected, or how does this office fit with what's happening locally?
Yeah, sure. We work with local, state law enforcement agencies trying to coordinate criminal activities involved in undercover activities with local law enforcement, providing, as I mentioned before, grants to local law enforcement, primarily through the COPS program. That's just one to name a few. What's happening today is we're seeing more and more occasions where police officers that are in harm's way, that are experiencing firearms being used at them, have mental health issues, and we're trying to provide more mental health funding for law enforcement officers. So we're involved in the local community and state community, involved in more preventative type activities, as I said before. And our FBI, DEA, ATF, Secret Service, all those federal agencies work hand in glove with our local law enforcement agencies. In the federal system, we have much fewer law enforcement officers than are involved in the local and state law enforcement sector. So we have to partner with those local and state law enforcement officials in order to be effective in our job. So one of the things that we've done is that we've made these local and state law enforcement officials members of task forces. So we have federal task forces that use a lot of local and state law enforcement officers as a force multiplier so that we're able to accomplish our goal of enforcing federal criminal law.
So the Central District covers what? Where?
The Central District covers 46 counties, from Quincy to Danville, from Rock Island to Macoupin County. It's the largest federal district in the state. We have 3 federal districts, the Northern, Central, and Southern District of Illinois. Of course, the Northern District has Chicago, so it's the largest population-wise. But as far as geography, we're the biggest district in the state.
So you've been in the office for a number of years, as you've shared with us. How does it change with presidential leadership?
Well, there's generally a shift in the philosophy that we in the U.S. Attorney's offices, and there are 93 U.S. Attorney's offices around the country, we feel from the Attorney General. The Attorney General, we report to the Attorney General in Washington, D.C. And so typically our policies come out of the Attorney General's office and the Deputy Attorney General's office. And so at one time, maybe the focus is on drugs. The next administration, it might be on violent crime. Techniques in terms of enforcement might be changed. For example, with our current administration, the issue of no-knock warrants has been a problem in our community. It has led to unjust events and serious injuries and deaths. The Attorney General, this Attorney General, Merrick Garland, has changed that. So no-knock warrants for federal agents are no longer going to be used except in extraordinary circumstances where it involves perhaps the harm of a law enforcement officer. So you're not going to be able to just go to a magistrate judge and get a no-knock warrant. That's one of the types of changes that this administration has made. There are many others that we have also made. For example, when I started 30 years ago in the U.S. Attorney's Office, we were not involved as much in violent crime. That was a state and local affair. But it has gotten so bad now that we're there to help our local partners. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're getting more involved in the offenses that involve firearms. And surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, we've always been involved, the U.S. Attorney's offices around the country have always been involved in large-scale drug distribution. So you talked about fentanyl. That's a serious problem. And 2 main cartels out of Mexico are distributing the fentanyl in most of our country. It's being manufactured out of China. So we are involved in the drug interdiction programs. But locally, we see fentanyl appearing in a number of substances, not only heroin, but methamphetamine. And we're even seeing it mixed with marijuana. And all of this can lead to dire results, as our chief mentioned earlier. So we see in the beginning we were not involved in violent crime. Today we are. So what does that have? What practical effect does that have? For example, there are situations that are called straw purchasers. Straw purchasers are individuals who go to a gun store. They have the credentials to buy a firearm legitimately, a FOID card and so forth, and they buy that firearm knowing that they're buying it for someone else who is a prohibited individual from possessing a firearm who's going to go out and use it. We've had situations here in Champaign where that's been something that's occurred and led to a police officer's death. So when I started 30 years ago, what we would have, we'd prosecute people who actually possessed the firearm, the felon who was prohibited from possessing a firearm. We would prosecute that individual, and we would use perhaps a straw purchaser who gave that individual the firearm as a witness, but very rarely prosecuted them. Today, no. We're looking at individuals that give prohibited individuals firearms just as seriously as the ones that go out and use the firearms. So that's a difference in today. And the penalties, Congress has changed and provided the same penalties for straw purchasers as for people who are prohibited from possessing firearms. That's one difference. When I started, again, mostly what we were involved in, political corruption, fraud, counterfeiting, bank robberies, those types of crimes. Today, drug cases that involve felons that are possessing firearms. And I can tell you, this is interesting. Julia probably says, well, this is just everything. We do this every day. We see this every day. But almost every drug case that we prosecute, and we only prosecute folks that are dealing drugs, large quantities of drugs, they're armed. They're carrying a firearm. And it makes sense when you think about it, because they're trying to protect their product from someone stealing it. And so they can't go to the police and report a theft of a product or something like that, so they're carrying firearms. So almost in every single case, someone's caught and prosecuted for drug trafficking. We also have a firearms charge, which using a firearm in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime, tagging on. And that's a mandatory minimum 5 years. If you've been convicted of a drug offense before, it could be 10 years. Mandatory, tacked on to the drug offense. That's the typical case that we see in terms of the drug arena, but it also goes to the prevalence and the accessibility of firearms out in our community. Some of these folks get involved in personal disputes that they're dealing, but they get involved, someone gets dissed online, the social media, and now they've got access to a lethal weapon. And in my day, we'd handle disputes with fisticuffs and fighting, and maybe you'd hear a horrendous story that, my gosh, somebody got stabbed. Not today. You're shot. And like I think of the expression, sticks and stones can break your bones, but a Glock will kill you. I mean, it will take you out. And that's the way it is today. We've got to stop that. We've got to get in control of this. And the federal government understands the significant job that you're doing out there to prevent it from getting to that point where we have to remove people from society because they're a danger to our community.
So I'm assuming, and they say you should never do that you are the first African American in your position in the Central District.
That's correct.
Talk to us about that. Congratulations, right?
Well, of course, it's an honor, but I will tell you something that you probably didn't know, that I am not the first African American to be U.S. Attorney in the state of Illinois, because the first U.S. Attorney, black U.S. Attorney, was in the Southern District of Illinois, and appointed, I think, under the Carter administration. And he was an amazing individual. He was also an Army officer. He commanded a tank battalion, and I think he was the first black state's attorney. I'm going to probably get this wrong. It wasn't McLean County, but it may have been McLean County. I'm not sure, but in the state of Illinois, state's attorney before he became U.S. Attorney.
Yeah, let's give him another round of applause for that, right? So I don't know if you want to talk about this today, but we want to make sure you come back when you are. But Mike shared with me a little bit some work that we're going to talk about doing about stopping hate in our communities.
Sure. Well, Mike also told me that I'd been given 10 minutes to talk and that you are a stringent taskmaster. And he also gave me some more distressing information when he said, and you used to be a defensive tackle for Northwestern University.
I was a running back, and I'm not big enough to be or I might be big enough now. But.
Well, that's all right. And so he said, and so if you go over 10 minutes, you're on your own, brother. So, yeah, we can just talk about that so briefly. I mean, we are also seeing an increase in hate crimes in the country. And so that's one area that we're also investigating and participating with offices like the FBI, Secret Service, and they are actively engaged. And it would be, surprising to know that there are extremist groups in our community, in our district. And so we also have another division of the FBI that's involved in national security issues that are looking not only in terms of domestic terrorism, but also international terrorism, all homegrown in our own district. So we're very much involved in that, and we're trying to combat some of that with the faith groups and having conferences, meetings, planning sessions where we can talk about how to best prepare yourself if you are a target of a hate group. And here in Champaign, as you know, there have been facilities that have been targeted because of hate among some individuals out in the community. So we're always trying to be vigilant, but that is an area that we are very much concerned, as well as we're concerned with mass shootings, and not only mass shootings in general, but mass shootings in schools. And we also have programs that are designed to be, threat indicators, so that we can see that we can train people to look for indications of individuals that are within the school and outside of the school that might be a threat to that school.
So through the coalition, we have a race relations committee, and we're doing a great deal of community education. So I want to extend to you anytime you want to come back and talk about the campaigns to address hate. You have an open invitation to come back anytime, but specifically you want to come back and talk about this work against hate. We've got an open space for you to come back. So U.S. Attorney Gregory Harris. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we've got a couple of minutes. I've stayed on schedule, as Mr. Harris just said today. So we've got some time for some information sharing. So Jill is in the back. Let's put the slides up. I know we've got News, Brews, and Beats happening Monday night. Poor Brothers. We've got a phenomenal show that's going to happen. So we had our planning meeting yesterday. We have 2 black male men, I guess if they're male, they're men, right? That are single fathers raising their kids. We have 2-parent home parents on the panel. We have a grandmother who's now raising her kids. Chandra's going to be there talking. And then we've got Dr. Denisha Grissom, who's a family expert in the community working on family work. And then so it's just going to be off the hook, as News, Brews, and Beats always are. All right, so Janice is here, going to talk to us about some things happening over Abandoned Neighborhood Connections.
Thank you. Good Good afternoon, everybody. So there is some information back there on the information sharing table, but I just wanted to mention briefly that Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center, we will be having an open house event. So all of you are invited to come out. It is a free event, and what we want to do with it is just to connect with the community. It's been a while since we've had something that's open, and we want, especially if you are a parent, grandparent, or a guardian of a young person and you are looking for a safe, affordable space for your children to be after school. Just quickly, I'll mention that we do offer free transportation from the schools to Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center. We have free meals, academic support, recreational, social, emotional, STEM, you name it, we've got it. And so we definitely would love to have you guys come out, tour our space, have a meal with us, meet some of our kids, meet our staff, enjoy a special performance. So that will be April 28th, Friday, April 28th, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Again, that's Friday, April 28th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. And again, the flyer is back there on the information sharing table, but all of you are welcome, and we hope to see you there.
Hi everyone, my name is April Faulkner and I'm with the Equity and Engagement Department. So April, the month of April, not me, amongst other things, is a Sexual Assault Awareness Month, also called SAM for short, because the other one's a mouthful. But the City of Champaign is partnering with the Women's Resource Center, who is also partnering with RACES, which is Rape Advocacy, Counseling, and Education Services. They are having an event the evening of April 20th called Take Back the Night. This is an event from 6 to 9 that's going to be taking place at Lincoln Mall in Urbana. This is an opportunity for survivors and advocates and allies to raise awareness of sexual assault and space for healing for survivors to share their stories, to share art, to find community, and it's just something that I wanted to extend to all of you to come and attend for however long you can. There are flyers about with information and contact information on the back, so I hope you're able to make it.
I just have one question, everyone, for Ms. Mitchell. Just to confirm, congratulations. I've worked there, so it's an excellent place to go. So my question is that for Urbana, or is that for Champaign students, or just for Urbana students?
Good question, and good to see you, Ms. Yvette. The Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center is really open. It's in Urbana, but it is open for students from both school districts. And even in the summer, we've had some students from other surrounding areas. We've had kids come down from Muhammad, Rantoul. The only thing is that the transportation is only from Urbana schools to Urbana. So that's the only kind of downside, if you will. But we are open and we accept all children from all over our community. Good question. Thank you.
All right, I wanted to let you all know that University of Illinois has a summer hip-hop camp. This year is going to be July 16th to July 22nd. I'm one of the co-directors of that camp. We teach beat making as well as MCing. We have a concert at the end of the week and put a mixtape together. It's open to youth who have finished 5th grade all the way through youth who have finished 12th grade or youth who are in those ages. I only have one flyer left. I'm down to my last flyer, but the flyer does have a QR code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it back here, scan the QR code if you want the information, or if you're on Instagram, Illinois Hip Hop Camp on Instagram. So check us out on Instagram. But encourage you to spread the word. We'd love to increase involvement among local youth, and we do have scholarships available as well. So many youth who are able to actually go to the camp for free.
So keep the mic, stand
okay,
up.
Yes.
So this is my guy. His stage name is Afro D and the Global Soundwave. He's got one of the most off-the-hook bands, groups in the community. He plays the trumpet. He does a little spoken word. He does hip-hop, poetry. He does it all, so I wanted to make sure they saw it again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So,
You want to go on and give him a little bit?
All right, so think about the possibilities if we use our own abilities to benefit the greater good in every single neighborhood. Think about the possibilities if we rise above hostility and use a positive mentality to make possibilities reality, because this goes out to those everyday people more concerned with helping others than about their own ego. If you try to give them credit, they deflect it away, but a little thank you was what I'm trying to say today. All right, so that's a little something for y'all.
All right. So, anyone? Yeah, stand up, Amy, so they see you again. She didn't introduce herself as the new Boys and Girls Club leader, so that's Amy Brown. So.
Thank you. We're getting it together over there at the Boys and Girls Club. So summer camp registration is on April 17th. That's when it opens up, and it'll be from 7:30 to 5:45 every day through the summer for the elementary, and the teen program over at Park Street will be from 10 a.m. to 6, and then one evening, I believe Thursday evenings. So please spread the word on that, because it's going to be pretty amazing this year, and we're real excited about all the new things. 2 other announcements. We have named Dr. Will Patterson as our Chief Teen Officer for the teen program. And you may know Monica Miles. She was over at Crisis Nursery. I feel bad that she's over at I feel good about it. But she's now the Director of Operations for the Boys and Girls Club. So more coming. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Nicole from Uniting Pride. We got 2 upcoming events that have to do with our young people. So the Urbana School District is hosting an LGBTQ plus family fun fest this Saturday over at Urbana Middle School from 12 to 2. And it is Urbana School District hosting it, but it's for anyone and everyone. And there's gonna be arts and crafts and games, and it's officially part of the Boneyard Festival. So we hope everyone will come on out. It's threatening rain. We're going to be inside if it rains, so you can still come on out. And then the other one is sort of on a more serious note. On April 29th, we are going to be hosting a rally for our queer and trans youth autonomy. The mental health crisis among these young people is devastating, and they need to feel like their voices are being heard and that this community has their back. So April 29th, we're going to be outside the courthouse at 4:30 p.m., and we really could use as many people as possible to come listen to these young people, hear what they have to say, and show them that they are loved and supported. Thank you.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Austin. I'm with Dispute Resolution Institute. We are a nonprofit based with an office in Urbana. We also have offices in Central and Southern Illinois. We are here today to get to know everyone and introduce ourselves. We currently operate an eviction and foreclosure mediation program for the Champaign County Court. We have mediated several hundreds of cases between landlords and tenants and property owners and lenders in order to for them to reach agreements on their own to hopefully resolve the eviction or resolve the foreclosure. So we're here today because we were recently awarded a grant from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority to start a pilot community mediation program in Champaign County. So that would be a program that's open to all residents and organizations in the county. The purpose of the program would be so as the mediators, we would just be the neutral third party between anyone in conflict to allow that conversation to happen, and for the parties to hear each other, to understand how their actions are impacting each other, and then to hopefully reach some kind of resolution on their own. The purpose of the grant is violence and gun prevention, so we are really hoping to partner with local organizations to get referrals for that program, and we're also looking to build a volunteer mediator base. So if any of you are interested in volunteering as mediators or know anyone, we are providing a free training for everyone, and we would support you through that entire process as well. Thank you.
All right.
And we're going to have information in the back.
So once again, let's thank U.S. Attorney Harris for his... Thanks to everyone. As I shared, we've got a great community. We have to keep fighting to make it as...
I don't have any flyers, but there also is going to be another one of those mental health in the Black community forums at Parkland. There's one in the back on April 18th. That's from 9 to 11 at Parkland.
Look, it's on the board. See how that works, you know? Thank you, everybody. Peace and love.